I want to say a few words about my father and why I believe this weekend is so important. But don't worry, unlike Lionel, I won't go on.
The carriage door opens at Royal Ascot, and for one perfect second, the cameras catch Queen Camilla smiling at the man beside her. Tom Parker Bowles, her son. Not a prince, not a duke, just a man in a grey morning suit, standing inches from the symbolic heart of the British crown. Then the smile freezes. Somewhere across the lawn, the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, turns her head. She does not wave. She does not blink. She simply watches, the way a soldier watches a line that has been crossed. And in that single, silent look, the whole picture changes. According to whispers now circulating through royal watcher circles, that look was not curiosity. It was a warning. A boundary being drawn without a single word spoken. The claim spreading online is dramatic. That Princess Anne, acting in the spirit of Prince William's future reign, moved to push Tom Parker Bowles away from the center of royal power at Ascot. Let it be clear from the start. There is no official confirmation of any such act. The palace has said nothing. This is speculation, palace whisper analysis, the kind of story that lives in the space between what we see and what we are told. But the question underneath it is real, and it is sharp. Not whether Tom attended, he did. The real question is whether he belonged that close to the throne's shadow. Hi, viewers. Before we go deeper, tell me honestly in the comments. Have you ever been welcomed somewhere only to slowly feel that you are being moved to the edge of the room? Drop your answer below. I read every single one. Because that feeling, that quiet shift from welcome to warning, is exactly what this story is built on. And the people inside it wear crowns. To understand why a mother smiling at her son could become a constitutional problem, you have to understand what Royal Ascot truly is. It looks like a horse race. It is actually a map. A map of who matters, who is rising, and who is being gently, wordlessly told to step back. Prince William, now Prince of Wales and heir to the throne, was not loud at Ascot. He did not need to be. The future king rarely raises his voice. His power is not in shouting. It is in the rules that quietly rearrange themselves around him long before he ever wears the crown. And those who study the monarchy closely say the signs were there for months. A leaner royal family, tighter access, a growing line between blood and duty, between who you love and who you may stand beside in public. But the warning did not begin with Tom Parker Bowles. It began with the way William started moving before he ever wore the crown. The royal family arrangement that Camilla had grown comfortable inside, the warm, blended, forgiving family of King Charles III, was already shifting beneath her feet. And by the time Princess Anne appeared inside the Ascot story, that old arrangement was already shaking. 2 o'clock. The crowd goes quiet. The horses pulling the royal carriages step into rhythm, and the gates open for the royal procession down the straight mile at Ascot. This is the moment everyone came for. Not the racing. This, the slow, deliberate parade of who sits where, who rides with whom, who the monarchy has chosen to lift into the light today, because Ascot has never really been about horses. It is theater. It is hierarchy made visible. Every carriage is a sentence. Every seat is a statement. The procession down that mile has been part of the event since 1825, and across 2 centuries, the meaning has never changed. To ride beside the sovereign is to be ranked. To sit in the royal box is to be counted. To stand near the monarch as the cameras flash is to be told, in front of the whole world, that you matter to the crown, and everyone watching knows how to read it. This year, the stakes around that ranking feel heavier than usual. The 2026 Royal Ascot Prize Fund reached a record £10.65 million, roughly $14.06 million for an American audience, using the June 2026 exchange rate near 1.32. That is the scale of the stage. That is how much money, prestige, and global attention swirl around those few days. Nothing that happens on that lawn is small. Nothing is private. Every gesture is amplified. So when a man steps into that frame who is not a working royal, the lens sharpens. Tom Parker Bowles is Queen Camilla's son from her first marriage. He is a respected food writer, a private citizen, a familiar face in British society, but not a member of the official royal firm. He holds no title that the Constitution recognizes. He has no formal role in the machinery of the monarchy. He is, in the simplest terms, family by love, not by duty. And for most of his life, that distinction kept him safely off the central stage. He and his sister, Laura Lopes, have largely stayed outside the spotlight, appearing only on rare occasions. That rarity is exactly what made this appearance land so hard. On paper, it looked like a mother enjoying Ascot with her son. But monarchy does not run on paper, it runs on symbols. And a symbol does not care about your intentions, it only cares about what it looks like. A private man, smiling, standing close to the Queen, framed by the most watched royal event of the British summer. To a casual viewer, charming. To someone trained to protect the institution, a question mark. The procession rolled on. The crowd cheered. The cameras kept rolling. And one symbol at Ascot may have told Princess Anne that the boundary had gone too soft. The photograph spreads within the hour. Camilla, laughing. Tom, leaning in. A mother and her son, caught in a moment that looks to most people completely ordinary. Then the comments begin, and they do not stay kind. Queen Camilla is, in this moment, simply a mother. Strip away the title, the crown, the decades of headlines, and what remains is a woman enjoying a rare public day with her child. There is nothing strange about that. In any other family, it would be invisible, forgettable, a nice afternoon at the races. But Camilla has never been allowed an ordinary family moment, not once. Her children, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, have spent their lives carefully outside the formal royal world. They were never made working royals. They carry no public duties. That separation was deliberate, and for years it protected everyone. It kept the line clean. It kept the questions quiet. So their rare visibility at Royal Ascot did something their absence never did. It invited commentary. According to the reaction rippling across social media and royal watching forums, the discomfort was not about Tom as a person. By all accounts, he is gracious, talented, well-liked. The unease was about proximity, about how close private family was standing to public power, and underneath all of it sits a shadow that never fully fades. Diana, Princess of Wales. You cannot tell Camilla's story without the public memory of Diana sitting somewhere in the room. That memory is still powerful, still emotional, still capable of turning a simple photo into an argument about loyalty, history, and who the people truly chose. Camilla's acceptance has always rested on a careful balance, and that balance has always been politically sensitive. That is the wound few people see.
Finally together, from Kislyar taking third position. Behind those put your hands together, Ismahan is next. Tinto continues to make progress, a very pale jacket four from the running well. Barnzo behind those.
After decades of scrutiny, after finally being crowned queen, even a warm family moment can be flipped into a constitutional debate. The price of her position is that nothing she does is ever just personal. She may have looked at her son and seen support, comfort, a familiar face in an exhausting public ritual, but what Camilla may have seen as family support, William Circle may have seen as a future risk, because the people planning the next reign are not thinking about today's photo. They are thinking about 10 years from now, about a monarchy that has to defend every image, every guest, every blurred line between the family you love and the institution you serve. And Princess Anne, more than anyone else alive, knows what happens when royal privilege begins to look personal. Princess Anne does not flinch at Ascot. She never does. While others smile for the cameras, the Princess Royal moves through the day like she is reading the room for threats no one else can see. Straight back, measured steps, eyes that miss nothing. She has spent a lifetime training herself to spot the exact moment when a small thing becomes a dangerous thing. And at Ascot, royal watchers believe she spotted one. Anne is the most duty-driven member of the royal family, and it is not close. Year after year, she logs more public engagements than almost anyone else in the firm. She does the unglamorous work, the visits no one films, the ceremonies that never trend. Her authority does not come from charm or spectacle, it comes from restraint. From the iron discipline of showing up and putting the institution above herself every single time. That discipline is exactly why this story attaches itself to her. Because Anne does not need a scene. She would never storm across a lawn or raise her voice in public. That is not how she works. A quiet word, a seating adjustment, a reminder about protocol passed through the right channels, a small, invisible correction that no camera ever catches. That is the entire range of her power, and it is more effective than any outburst. To be clear, there is no confirmed evidence that Princess Anne moved against Tom Parker Bowles. This is symbolic interpretation, the kind of storytelling the public builds when it watches body language and fills in the silence. But the reason the story fits her so perfectly is that it matches everything we know about how she operates. In this version, Anne is not being cruel. She is not jealous. She is doing the one thing she has always done, protecting the institution from optics that could one day be used against it. Her concern would not be the man. It would be the picture, the way a private family member beside the Queen could be twisted into a symbol of privilege the moment public opinion turned. She learned this model from the best. Queen Elizabeth II ran the monarchy on quiet duty for 70 years. Never explain, never complain. Protect the crown by being unshakable. Anne absorbed that lesson deeper than almost anyone, and she carries it now like a second spine. So in this telling, Anne was not fighting Tom Parker Bowles. She was fighting what his presence could be made to represent. But Anne, for all her steel, is not the true engine of this story. She is the hand, not the will. Behind her discipline stood a larger force, one that does not yet sit on the throne but already shapes how the throne behaves. And that force was William's coming reign.
Every family has its own difficulties and its own challenges, and I think it's very individual and sort of...
William does not say a word about Tom Parker Bowles. That is the most important detail in the entire story. The Prince of Wales moves through Ascot calm, composed, future king certain. He gives no order anyone can quote. He makes no public objection, and yet the palace around him seems to tighten on its own, like a room rearranging itself before the new owner has even arrived. That is what people mean when they say this happened under William's command. It is not a literal order. He is not king. King Charles III still reigns. William has no authority to expel anyone from anything. So treat that phrase as symbolic language, because that is exactly what it is. The point is not that William acted. The point is that the palace is already adjusting to the monarch he is about to become, and the monarchy he is building looks very different from the one his father created. King Charles III runs an emotional, blended family monarchy. He spent decades fighting for the right to bring Camilla and her children into the heart of royal life. His reign is warm, forgiving, personal. It is a monarchy that says love should have a place at the table, even when the public is not sure it belongs there. William's likely monarchy, by every account, runs colder and tighter, leaner, more disciplined, more obsessed with optics and public trust than with personal comfort. He watched what scandal does to the institution. He lived it, and royal observers believe he is determined to inherit a crown with fewer blurred lines and fewer private complications attached to it. Beside him stands Catherine, Princess of Wales, the image of exactly the stability William wants to project. Steady, polished, trusted by the public in a way few royals ever achieve. Together they represent a future built on restraint, not warmth, on discipline, not forgiveness, and William's instincts were forged in pain. He is the son of Diana, Princess of Wales. He grew up inside the wreckage of a royal marriage that played out in public, watched his family's private agony become global entertainment. That experience did not make him cruel, it made him careful. Almost ruthlessly careful about what the monarchy shows the world, so his concern at Ascot would never be personal. It is not about disliking Tom Parker Bowles. It is about survival, about making sure that everything the public sees can be defended, that every face near the throne can be explained, that the monarchy he inherits is clean enough to outlast the doubts of a skeptical age. William did not need to remove anyone by hand. All he needed was a rule the palace could not ignore. And that rule became far more dangerous the moment the legal structure of royal power entered the story. There is a rule book for the British crown, and Tom Parker Bowles is not in it. That is the cold fact sitting underneath the warmth of the Ascot photo. While the cameras chase smiles and hats and champagne, there exists a quiet stack of laws that decide who can actually hold royal power when the moment demands it, and that list does not care about love. It cares about rule. The framework is real, and it is precise. The Regency Acts, passed between 1937 and 1953, set out who may step in when the sovereign cannot perform their duties. Then came the Councillors of State Act, 2022, which updated the modern lineup, adding the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, to the small group of people legally permitted to act on the monarch's behalf. Read that group again. Queen Camilla, Prince William, Prince of Wales, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, Every one of them carries a constitutional weight that the law recognizes by name. Now place Tom Parker Bowles beside that list. He is not on it. He cannot be on it. He is the Queen's beloved son, but in the eyes of the law that governs the crown, he holds no role at all. None. He is family in the human sense, and a stranger in the constitutional one. And that gap, the space between the people he loves and the power they carry, is the exact place where this entire story lives. This is why royal experts say a figure like Princess Anne would never frame her concern as jealousy. From a public relations standpoint, jealousy is small, petty, personal. What the institution thinks about instead is clarity. The monarchy does not survive on affection. It survives on recognized roles, defined duties, and a clean line between who is family and who is function. The law already drew that line decades ago. It simply waited for a moment like Ascot to make the line visible to everyone watching. Because the public was beginning to feel something it could not yet name. A discomfort, a sense that the picture did not quite fit, and the law had the words the public was missing. Family is not the same as authority. Standing near the throne is not the same as belonging to it. That is the quiet truth Princess Anne is said to guard. Not with anger, with precision. The crown does not protect itself by loving the right people. It protects itself by remembering, at every moment, exactly who holds a role and who does not. But the next twist in this story was not hidden in any carriage list or seating chart. It was buried somewhere far less romantic. It was buried in money. The story stops being about a smile the moment the numbers come out, because while the cameras stayed on the lawn at Ascot, a far colder conversation was happening in the background of the monarchy, one measured not in glances but in millions of dollars. And once that conversation entered the picture, every face near the throne became a liability waiting to be examined. Here is the twist. Almost no one connected to Ascot at first. The British monarchy is funded through something called the sovereign grant, and that grant is calculated from the profits of the Crown Estate. In recent years, the Crown Estate's income exploded, driven heavily by offshore wind farm deals in British waters. Suddenly, the numbers were enormous. So enormous that the funding formula had to be rewritten to stop the royal payout from ballooning out of control. According to figures published by the UK government, the percentage used to calculate the grant was cut sharply, dropping from 25% down to 12%, specifically to manage that offshore windfall. Even after the cut, the sovereign grant was set at £132.1 million for 2025 to 2026. For an American audience, that is roughly $174.4 million in public-linked funding tied to the crown. Now hold those two images side by side. A private family member smiling beside the Queen, and $174.4 million flowing through a monarchy under public review. That is why the optics suddenly matter so much more. When royal money is being examined this closely, when the public is asking hard questions about offshore profits and how much the crown receives, every blurred line becomes a target. Critics can take a single image, a private man near the symbolic center of power, and turn it into a question about access, privilege, and benefit, even when no such benefit exists. And this part must be said plainly. There is no evidence whatsoever that Tom Parker Bowles received any official benefit, any money, any institutional advantage. None. He has never held a public role, and nothing suggests he sought one. The danger here is not accusation. The danger is perception. The way a hostile headline can connect family closeness to royal funding and let the public draw an unfair conclusion on its own. That is the exact risk William's leaner monarchy is built to avoid. His message sharpens here. A public-facing crown, funded by public-linked money, must be defensible in every frame, every guest, every photo, every inch of distance between the family and the institution. The problem was no longer whether Tom Parker Bowles smiled beside his mother. The problem was whether the public could still tell where private family ended and the crown began. And once money entered the story, Queen Camilla's emotional position became even more fragile than anyone watching realized.
Oh God, I hate this.
Oh look, it's going everywhere. Hang on. So nobody got wrong.
Queen Camilla does not cry. She does something harder to watch. She understands. In the quiet after Ascot, royal observers imagine the moment not as an explosion, but as a slow, sinking clarity. A woman who fought for decades to be accepted, suddenly realizing that acceptance was never the finish line. It was a door that could still be moved, narrowed, quietly repositioned while she stood inside it. She is not being rejected as queen. That is the cruel precision of it. No one is taking her crown. No one is questioning her marriage to King Charles III. Her place is secure. What is shifting is something smaller and sharper. The circle around the throne is tightening, and her private family is being eased gently toward its outer edge. Imagine the particular pain of that. A mother whose children can stand beside her personally, but never too close to the institution. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes are welcome as her family. They are simply not welcome at the symbolic heart of the crown, and a William-shaped future may make that line firmer than it has ever been. This is where the story refuses to hand out villains. Princess Anne is not a monster for guarding the institution. Prince William is not cruel for protecting the monarchy he must inherit. They are doing what duty demands, and that is exactly what makes Camilla's position so human. She is caught between the family she loves and the institution she serves, and those two things are quietly pulling apart. The public memory of Diana, Princess of Wales, sits in the background of all of it, not as an attack, but as a fact of history that never fully settles. Camilla's acceptance has always carried conditions the public never wrote down but always remembered, and that is the heart of her wound. Acceptance, for her, has always come with limits.
A lot of food as well. Yeah, so
How much do I put in?
No, that's fine. We send throughout Ramadan one more.
Yes. Yes.
Royal biographers have long debated whether Camilla ever truly felt secure inside the firm, even after the crown. And this Ascot story, true or not, lands on that exact nerve. Her greatest fear may not be public humiliation. It may be something quieter and more painful, being reminded after all these years that the welcome was always conditional. Princess Anne becomes the person willing to enforce those limits. William becomes the future those limits are built to protect, and Camilla becomes the human cost standing in the middle. She may have believed the hardest battle of her life was becoming queen. But the harder battle may be learning what queens are not allowed to bring with them, and that is precisely why the final confrontation, if it ever truly happened, would never have looked like a confrontation at all. There is no slammed door, no raised voice, no shouting match in a palace hallway, and that absence is the most chilling part of the entire story. Let it be stated clearly, one more time, there is no verified public evidence of any dramatic removal of Tom Parker Bowles from Royal Ascot. No official statement confirms it. What follows is the plausible mechanism, the way royal power actually moves when it decides someone has drifted too close to the center. It does not look like a fight. It looks like an arrangement. Picture it the way insiders describe royal correction: a seating chart quietly redrawn, an invitation that arrives for one event but not the next, a place card moved 3 feet to the left, a guest list trimmed without explanation. Access, gently and silently, adjusted. No one announces it, no one has to. The change simply exists, and everyone who understands the language reads it instantly. That is how the royal family handles conflict. Not with confrontation, but with choreography. The Princess Royal, Princess Anne, would not need to say a single word against Tom Parker Bowles. In this telling, her role is enforcement so quiet it never leaves a fingerprint. A protocol reminder here, a boundary firmed there, the institution protected without a single dramatic scene. And William's alleged command was never an order at all. It was future policy, already shaping the present. The palace adjusting itself toward the king it knows is coming. King Charles III stands in the hardest place of anyone. He loves Queen Camilla. He fought the world to bring her and her children into royal life. But he also wears the crown, and the crown's first loyalty is to its own survival. So he is caught between the husband who wants his family close and the monarch who knows the institution must come first. That tension does not resolve in a speech, it resolves in silence. The climax of this story is not a battle, it is a recognition. The slow, certain understanding that the monarchy has chosen discipline over comfort, and that no one in the family is powerful enough to reverse it. In an ordinary family, all of this would have ended in an argument. In the royal family, it ended in arrangement. If you have ever felt a relationship change without a single word being spoken, you already understand this story better than any headline could explain it. Share that moment in the comments. Your story might be the one that helps someone else feel less alone. And if quiet power, hidden royal rules, and the secrets behind the palace walls keep you watching, subscribe and turn on notifications right now so the next story reaches you the moment it drops. Because by the time the cameras moved on from Ascot, the warning had already been delivered. The crown does not always punish people by throwing them out. Sometimes it just moves the line and waits for everyone to notice. That is the final truth of this entire story. And it was never really about one man at one horse race. Tom Parker Bowles was just the moment the world finally saw the shift. The real subject was always bigger. It was the future shape of the British monarchy itself. This was always coming. The signs stretched back years. Commentators warned that Prince William would eventually narrow the circle, tighten access, and draw harder lines around the institution. People called those predictions cold, ruthless, unkind. But after every scandal, the same hard lesson kept returning. The future king cannot inherit every private complication of the reign before him. William's monarchy, by every serious account, will be smaller, stricter, and far less willing to tolerate blurred family privilege. Beside him, Catherine, Princess of Wales, embodies the steady public trust he wants the crown to project. Together they are building something leaner and more defensible than the warm, blended family King Charles III created. Princess Anne represents the old discipline that William's vision may need most, the duty-first restraint inherited from Queen Elizabeth II, the willingness to protect the institution even when it feels harsh. She is the warning voice, the one who sees what happens when boundaries soften and privilege starts to look casual. Queen Camilla represents the human cost of that discipline, the woman who waited a lifetime for acceptance, only to learn that acceptance has edges. Tom Parker Bowles represents the private family line, the people we love who simply cannot cross too far into public symbolism. And King Charles III stands as the bridge between an emotional monarchy and an institutional one, holding both with hands that cannot keep them together forever. The story refuses to name a villain because there isn't one. There is only the future, arriving quietly, the way the future always does. Nobody may ever confirm what was truly said behind palace doors. The palace officially denies any such drama, and perhaps it never happened at all. But the warning is already visible to anyone watching closely. In William's coming monarchy, love may still be private. Duty will be public, and anyone who forgets the difference will, sooner or later, feel the door closing. The future often arrives without a sound. Then one day the line is moved, and everyone acts shocked that it was ever going to stay where it was.